Okay, everyone, so we're going to get started now. So first of all, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming for our private schools and scholarship session. We have structured today's presentation around the questions you shared with us when signing up. And if there are any follow-up or additional questions, we'll have time towards the end to take them. Let's get started.
Let's just start with a little bit about us. So my name is Tanish Tyagi. I'm a rising junior at Phillips Exeter Academy. For ninth grade, I attended Melbourne High School, and some of my favorite subjects in school are history and computer science. And outside of school, I like to do robotics, scouting, and play basketball.
My name is Riya Tyagi. I'm a rising sophomore at Phillips Exeter. I attended middle school in 8th grade, and some subjects I like are psychology and quantum physics. Outside of school, I really enjoy scouting, origami, and robotics. As you may know, this is a Her Computing event. Her Computing is a 501c3 organization that we started in 2019 to make computing and coding approachable for all students in grades K to 12. We're excited to share our newest initiative, Billion Kids Code. We're launching a board game, Who Wants to Be a Billionaire, in a few days. We created the game to build students' confidence and excitement about the field of technology. The game is fun, challenging, and most importantly, teaches everyone all about the business of technology. We've extensively tested it with students throughout the summer, and it will be available via Kickstarter.com. We'll share more with you this month and would be tremendously grateful for your support.
All right, so without further ado, let's jump more into this private school session. So I want to start with some key themes that we're going to discuss during today's presentation. So they include what's the difference between a private high school versus public high school, the difference between a private day school versus boarding school, the school admissions process like tests, applications, interviews, extracurriculars, and scholarships. So as Ria mentioned, all of these themes have been created around the questions that you posed for us in the registration form. So the most common question that we got was, what is the difference between attending a private high school versus a public high school? So these were some questions included, how is a private school experience different from a public school experience? What could be reasons of moving to a public schools when the private school district is good? Pros and cons. What is the most notable difference between Melbourne High School, Melbourne Middle School, and your school? So we think these questions can be answered by looking at the buckets on the right here. So such as academic experience, class experience, and extracurricular experience. So I'm going to get started by just discussing a little bit about the academic experience at private schools. So private schools generally have more course flexibility and choices. So this includes being able to take placement tests to skip multiple years worth of courses, and also being able to skip courses over the summer. And additionally, the course rigor is higher at private schools, as they all sometimes offer college level courses that are not found at public schools.
Yeah, Tanish basically touched upon all of that with academic experience. I think just to add on a little bit, especially at Exeter, there's really a lot of course choices. There's over like 300 of them, and a lot of private high schools have similar amounts. There's really an option to take placement tests to skip courses. Students can take like high levels of math in 9th and 10th grade. Students can take courses with other students of all grade levels. And of course, there's like complete option in which courses they want to take, and very basic graduation requirements that have to be fulfilled. There's really a lot of flexibility and rigor available in a lot of private high schools.
So now we're going to discuss about the class experience. So at many private schools, the peer group is of a mixed grade and like-minded. So your class may have students from 9th grade up to 12th grade, even postgraduate years. They're in schools, and a lot of these classes are also going to be you're also going to attend a lot of these classes with a bunch of your like-minded peers, regardless of grades. So grade really isn't a barrier that separates students at private high schools. And also the class size is significantly smaller at private schools. So at Exeter, for example, has most classes capped at a size of 12 students. So this really allows you to develop better relationships with the teacher, other students, and really engage more in the class. And private schools also sometimes employ different teaching methods, such as Exeter, for example, and other private schools employ the Harkness method, which is more of a discussion style, where public schools more often do a lecture style. So in this Harkness method discussion format, the teacher isn't really talking much, and the students are mostly figuring out and discussing what material they're interested in themselves. And also the smaller class size yields to more teacher availability. So for example, I've had the opportunity to go get coffee with teachers, eat lunch and dinner with teachers, and these opportunities really help you get to know the students your teachers and other students on another level that extends outside of the classroom.
Yeah, Tanish really got all of that. I agree completely. I think one of the biggest things is definitely like the different teaching methods available. For me, especially, Harkness has worked quite a bit better because rather than like a lecture style, the teachers don't really talk at all, and it's really the students learning from one another. This is really made possible because of the small class sizes, like 12 or 13 versus like 20 or 25 that can be found in public high schools. This is not just Exeter too. A lot of private high schools do have Harkness methods or other teaching methods, as well as it's pretty common to have a much smaller class size. So yeah, that's
Mhm.
all.
Yeah, so now we're gonna discuss a little bit more about the extracurricular experience. So the extracurricular experience doesn't vary too significantly from a private school versus a public school compared to the academic and class experience. So the main difference is that you're gonna have a lot more like-minded peers in whatever area, from theater, drama, to history, computer science, physics, etc. You're gonna be able to encounter and discuss a lot more with like-minded peers. And private schools often have a lot more clubs. Like Exeter has over 120 clubs, which are for pretty much anything you can think of. And these clubs all have the opportunity to have a nice, good social impact, and have more, a good social impact overall, and are able to do many more things.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that completely there. Extracurriculars really depends on what you're interested in and the amount of passion you have towards what things you want to do. But especially a lot of private schools, there's a lot more opportunities available, especially in like, teacher availability. You can meet with teachers to start clubs, run activities, work with them on projects, things like that, as well as, other related like-minded peer groups. And of course, the wide variety of clubs and on-campus offerings from like singing, as Tanish mentioned, to history and science and all of that.
All right, so I would say the most notable difference for me between a private high school and public high school is the class experience. So the class experience has really helped me get fully delve into and fully enjoy all the subjects that I take at school, from Spanish to computer science, where I wasn't really fully interested in Spanish and English at public school, but the way the teaching method and the Harkness method and the way I've been able to discuss with my fellow peers has really brought me more into the subjects and had help me enjoy them more. And I would say my main decision-making factor was partially also due to the academic experience, where I saw that Exeter and other private schools also offer a lot of computer science and history courses, which was something which are subjects that I was really interested in, which I'm really interested in and want to dig deeper. So those really appealed to me as well.
Yeah, completely agree. For me, the most notable difference was probably the independence, especially going to a boarding school. There was really like you were taking care of yourself, choosing the classes you wanted to take, the people you wanted to hang out with, all of those sorts of things. I think that's one of the biggest things with private high schools, whether boarding or not. There's really biggest option to be independent, choose your courses, your rigor, talk with your teachers, like all those sorts of things. And I really noticed that when comparing Exeter and the local high schools around here. Yeah, so for me, my decision-making factor is definitely the like-minded peer groups. I went to Exeter and I visited Exeter and other private high schools, and I really connected and gelled with a lot of the people there on campus, as well as opportunities available. And I think the biggest thing that drew me there was people who are really interested in the things I was interested in, like psychology, quantum physics, those sorts of subjects. And yeah, I really had a lot of fun with that. And I think that was the reason why I chose to go to a private school, specifically Exeter. We also want to touch upon a little bit about why a student who's getting straight A's in a public school would choose to go to a private school. And I think one of the main reasons for that is academic rigor. In my opinion, I think that if a student is getting A's in a public school, then there's definitely more opportunity for them to reach their academic potential and challenge themselves. And that's something that a lot of private high schools do offer, more academic rigor in the courses, as well as the choices and the flexibility that really allow students to, push their academic boundaries and face those challenges. So of course, there are also cons to private high schools, and some of those include tuition. Tuition is quite expensive. We'll talk a little bit about scholarships later on, as well as high pressure and competition. One thing that's really important is that since these schools are admission-based, there is more pressure and there is stress and competition due to that. And I think the best thing to ensure that you are successful and happy at a school is really choosing the school that fits you really well. And that means choosing the school that you want to go to, choosing the students that you really connect with. Really, if you come in with the right mindset, excited about the school and its opportunities, these sorts of things aren't as prevalent. But if the school isn't the right fit or something like that, pressure and competition can really bog the student down. So it's super important to consider those when applying for a private high school. So the next thing I want to talk about is private day school versus boarding school. Some questions that were asked here is how to assess if a child can be successful in a boarding high school. Of course, this is really early to be on their own, as well as how to decide between Exeter and Andover and other boarding schools like Choate, Hotchkiss, or Groton. So I think one of the important things to assess if a child can be successful in a boarding high school is student readiness. And this is highly brought down to maturity, independence, and willingness. This doesn't really, age is not really the huge issue, but more about if the student feels they're ready and willing to go to a boarding school and mature enough to choose the right classes, choose a good friend group, like basically create opportunities for themselves there. And of course, it's a lot about independence. You'll be doing a lot of things yourself, such as washing clothes, waking up every morning on time, getting to classes, all those sorts of things. So it's really a lot about the student's ability and if they feel they're ready. It's really important also to have skills such as time management. I think that's especially one of the most important ones, since there won't be like a parent to watch over the child and make sure that they're getting their work done. It's really important to know how to manage your time and do all your work efficiently and quickly. But once again, age isn't really the biggest issue if a student feels they're ready in these categories.
So Ria pretty much touched on everything I wanted to discuss in the student readiness section. So I guess I'll move on to the boarding versus day student section. So if we compare the dorm, so if you don't know what a day student is, it's basically someone who doesn't live on campus and instead lives nearby, and after whenever they would like, a parent can come pick them up and they'll just sleep at home. Pretty much depending on how much a day student spends their time on campus, they can just be thought of as a boarding student who doesn't sleep there. So the dorm experience between if you compare the dorm experience for a boarding student versus a day student, it really does vary on how much the day student stays on campus. So there's not real Exeter specifically. I don't know about any other boarding schools, but day students don't have a specific curfew that they have to get picked up by. So a day student, whenever they're ready, they can just chill in the dorm, and then whenever they're ready to get picked up or to finish their work, they can just come and call their parents, and the parents will come pick them up. But boarding students do have an easier transition to college, as they've already been working to develop the skills of time management, maturity, and they have that maturity as Ria discussed earlier. So the transition is easier to college, where these skills are much more important. But day students do have the opportunity to have more parental support and guidance, since their parents are more easily accessible and since they live nearby with their parents, whereas boarding students may not have as much access to parental support. And however, for some people, being a day student is simply not an option. Like, for example, we live in New Jersey, so it's not really feasible to be a day student in Exeter, which is 7 hours away.
Yeah, that's pretty much all. I completely agree with that. So just to touch upon a little bit with our experience as to local day schools as well as boarding schools. So I guess I'll start with Pingree Newark Academy. So beginning with Pingree has a lot of people in the elementary and middle school who are from Short Hills. So especially when applying from Short Hills to Pingree, it's really important to consider the entry year. It's quite difficult to get into Pingree in 9th grade. They take very few students from Short Hills. It's really, if you want to attend Pingree, it's important that you start early and go for like elementary or middle school option. Newark Academy is similar, except they take many more students in 9th grade. Although they do have a middle school school as well, and it's a bit easier to get in as a 6th grader from Short Hills in the middle school from Newark Academy. So yeah, there's also other schools here, local day schools here, like Seton Hall and Kemp Place. Seton Hall is all boys and Kemp Place is all girls. Those are also great schools to go to as well. If you're really interested in the boarding school environment, there are New Jersey boarding schools that are pretty close by, not 7 hours away like Exeter is, and 30 minutes or an hour away, so easier for parents to communicate and come there on weekends and those sorts of things. Those are Petty and Lawrenceville. They both have really good options as well. There's also other boarding schools like Exeter, Andover, Choate, Hotchkiss, and Groton. Each of these are quite different, well, slightly different, and it really depends on fit in choosing which school you want to go to. For example, Exeter is more STEM-based and Andover is more liberal arts. Exeter has a more studious culture, while Andover is like a more social culture. Choate is very flexible, like if you're doing, if you need to travel internationally or travel nationally, then Choate will allow you to leave campus. Hotchkiss and Groton are smaller and have very warm environments. So all of these things, it really depends on what school you're interested in and what school really fits you. This can really be determined by going to the school visits, going on the school's websites, seeing the campus and seeing how well you really connect with the people and the opportunities the school has to offer. And yeah, once again, like happiness and success at a school really depend on how much you connect with the school and how much you think you would like to go there.
Just to add on to Ria, just for how to decide between Exeter, Andover, and other boarding schools. So really, as Ria said, I just want to emphasize a little bit more. The fit is really important. So I think, in my opinion, it's pretty important to go to the campus and to go on the tour, do the interview, because when you go on the tour, you'll actually feel like, oh, what is it like to spend a day there? How do I gel with the student community? Well, am I a fan of the nature of the campus? Am I really drawn to the scenery, etc.? So those details, while they may seem small in terms of the application process, can really be very important in actually ensuring a good fit at any boarding school or private school. All right, so I guess we can discuss more about the admissions process, so tests, applications, interviews. So let's see, we'll get started with tests. So the main tests for boarding school or private school admissions are SSAT versus and ISEE. So how to decide between the SSAT and ISEE. So from my experience, the ISEE, students who have more of a math background will fare better in the ISEE, and students with more of a liberal art background where can have a more easier time with SSAT, as the verbal section does require a lot of preparation for words, etc. So how to prep for these exams. So Ria and I both took the SSATs. So we used the Varsity Tutors website to prep for SSAT, and then for practice tests, we just took them out of the Barron's book. And in terms of what is a good score, so if you look up the percentiles for each school that you're interested in applying to, generally if you're in the 95th percentile for SSAT, or 95th percentile and above for SSAT, that is considered a good school and will be a good score and will be competitive at any school.
Yeah, completely agree. But of course, once again, your score also does depend on which school you're applying to and the average scores for that school. So you can definitely consider those as well, because the scores will be different for each school. I just need to add in a little bit. So some schools say on their websites, or in the admissions procedure, that tests are optional. And if your tests are optional, you definitely want to still take them, because optional tests don't mean that the school won't look at them. And especially if you're able to get high scores in the test can be very advantageous. So it's good to take that as well. But then, of course, some other schools would also say test blind, and that means that they won't look at your test at all. So whether you take it or not does not have any impact. So in those schools, you can decide not to take the test if you so choose as well. Another thing to consider between SSAT and ISE is the number of times you're allowed to take them. You can take the SSAT 8 times. Of course, if you don't do too well, then you can always switch to the ISE. But you can also only take the ISE 3 times. So yeah, pretty much.
All right. So if we just discuss more about applications, so what is the process to apply, when to apply? So applications, for process to apply, there's mainly like a couple big portals where most of the application essays or most application submitting is going to get done. So the main one is SAO, which stands for Standard Apps Online. So a lot of schools here will have just one general application with maybe some small differences or maybe some additional supplemental essay questions between for a certain school may require some additional supplemental questions, but a large part of the applications will be the same. And the same is with the Gateway to Prep Schools portal as well. And some schools do have independent application portals, such as Pingree and Newark Academy. So I'd say the deadline is really from mid-December to mid-January. So that's when you really want to have your essays and the rest of the whole entire recommendations, etc., all locked in for the most part, and just minor proofreading before you submit them at the latest mid-January. And to decide on how many schools to apply to, it really depends on how much the student is interested in going to a private or boarding school. So for me, I really had a great time at Milburn High School. I had a lot of fun being involved in the robotics program. So I only applied to REACH schools, and with the expectation that if I was able to get into one of these REACH schools, then I'd consider attending.
Yeah, I agree completely. Just to touch upon how many schools from my experience. So I was very interested in going to a private or a boarding school. So I applied to quite a few. I guess one of the things to consider there too is that the Standard Apps Online, there's a few schools, and you can basically, you do some essay questions and then you can select as many schools as you want to submit these questions to. Sure, each school you have to interview for, and maybe submit a little bit of extra supplementary material. But since I was interested in private and boarding schools, I did select more schools there, and I generally applied to more schools in the hope that I'd get into one of them, which turned out to be successful.
So I think the next part about the admissions process is interviews. So how to prepare for interviews and what specifically to speak in the interview. So the preparation for interviews is just to mainly just know the main question is, why do you want to go to school, and why are you interested in attending that school? So if you just know the answer to that, then that should generally be a good start to the interview preparation. And just know that know some activities that you're passionate about that you would like to discuss with the interviewer, some hobbies, etc., what you love in school specifically, and those kinds of general questions will be pretty good for interview preparation. And let's see, how to speak in an interview. So how to speak in an interview, you just so what essentially how the interview is going to work is that the admissions officer is just going to ask you some questions, and you want to answer them to the best of your ability. Be honest. Don't try to give any fake or exaggerated answers, because they will be very easily able to see that. So if you speak honestly and you be your authentic person, then you will really have a great time and you'll actually enjoy the interview. And just a little side note is that the parents also have an interview. So when you go for the tour and eventually the interview, it's also nice if the parents can also, because they're going to, after they take the student, they're also going to take both parents. So if both parents can also come for the interview, that would be nice as well.
Yeah, so just adding a little bit with the student interview, they really want to know, the interviewer really wants to know a lot about what you're passionate about, and like, like the environment you grew up in, and also what you can bring to the campus. So it's important that you one thing you can do, one thing we did as well is like took a little bit of, we brought in like a binder, not really much of a binder, just like some materials to show to the interviewer, as well, just kind of to demonstrate like your passions with some visuals. So it's really a good idea to try to best portray what you are interested in and how you can use your interests to contribute to the school community, because it really does not matter what you're passionate in. They just want to see something that you're really excited about and interested in, something you can share with all of the other students in their school. Also, another thing for the parent interview, this is really an opportunity for the parents to talk to the interviewers. There won't be like strict like parent questions, more just the interviewers will want to know a little bit about like the parents' experience with the children, as well as it'll be a great opportunity for any parents to ask questions they have about the school and how their child will fit in, and how their experience will be. Okay, so the next thing I want to touch upon was high school extracurriculars. Some questions in this area were, how many extracurricular activities should the child do? And yeah, those, and then some more over there that are listed. So the thing in middle school, the child should really feel free to explore as many extracurriculars as you like. High school is really the time to try to like focus on some of them that you're really interested in and pick the activity that you enjoy the most. The most important thing here is that activity does not matter. It's really about just doing something you're passionate about and something that you'll really enjoy, that you can also share with other people and bring to your interview as well. So this can be like literally anything from music, arts, sports, robotics, debate, scouting, math, science, computing Olympiad, literally anything you're super interested in. And another thing to consider in high school is that course grades are really like the table stakes, and extracurriculars should really be done on top of that. You can do like one primary extracurricular, maybe one secondary. And also it's really important to do something like fitness and recreation. So that's like sports, like whether that's like exercising or going to the gym or doing a specific sport, because a healthy body equals a healthy mind. And that's really important in high school, especially when there's a lot of coursework and there can be a lot of stress. So yeah, the most important thing with extracurriculars is that you really choose the things you're passionate about and you focus on those, because then you'll have the most fun and also be able to share the most with your interviewer if you're thinking about high school applications.
And then we've heard this question a lot: which activities are better for admissions? So again, there's no really a clear cut, oh, you do this extracurricular, you're guaranteed admission or anything like that. It's basically for activities, they're really trying to see what you are passionate about. It doesn't, as Riya said earlier, it doesn't really matter what you're passionate about, as long as you're just passionate about something and you have a demonstrated interest and you're able to show that passion in a nice, coherent way, then the applications interviewers will like that. And it's also not really worth it to do an activity just for an admissions purpose, because oftentimes the officers can see, oh, they're just doing this for admissions, if you're not really able to demonstrate a clear passion for it. So just as long as you're doing an activity and you're passionate about it and you put a lot of effort into it, everything will turn out good.
We also had a quick question about our scouting journey. So how it was helpful personally and academically, and how to become one. So I'll just start with mine. So I joined with some other scouts, some other girls to found a Girl Scouts troop, because as like Boy Scouts, as it was previously called, open up to girls. There was an opportunity February 2019 to start a troop. So I was able to come with some of my friends, and we started a Scouts BSA female troop in Short Hills called Troop 19. So I think for me, at least, scouting was a really awesome experience, because not only did I learn how to speak, I promise you, before scouting, I would not have been able to give this talk, any talk, or literally any talk at all, because I just had no clue how to speak in front of an audience, how to public speak. But after I joined the troop, I started to give speeches as events as a leader of the troop, and I really learned how to communicate. I think that was one of the biggest things with scouting. I learned how to communicate. I learned how to, take an idea and really get into action, whether that's an idea for like a camping trip or for like a meeting, literally anything at all. And academically, it was really great in boosting my confidence. And of course, confidence boosting comes both in the personal life as well as academics. So it had impacts everywhere. How to become a scout? That was part of the question. So you can just go to the scouting website. You can just look up, scout troops in Short Hills, Millburn, and there'll be an option to sign up on the websites. Scouting is a really good opportunity, and I recommend anyone interested in signing up.
And then just for me to talk a little bit more about my scouting journey. So I had a lot of the same positive experiences as Ria. And then just wanted to also emphasize the leadership experiences and the leadership skills that scouting will really give you, because if you're passionate about it and you put enough effort in the scouting and you're active in the troop, it's very easy. It's very easy to become a leader, and you have that opportunity to just to lead a bunch of scouts, even as a patrol leader where you're leading a whole bunch of scouts, taking on camping trips, preparing the food, delegating different tasks to different people. So those scouting actually provides real world skills that I still use today, and I'm most likely still going to be using 20, 30 years into the future. So scouting was really a transformative experience, especially for me and Ria. So we really recommend that if you have the time to sign up. And so one of the last things we wanted to discuss was the private high school application, private high school scholarships. So some of the questions we got were like what to apply for merit-based scholarships. Are scholarships even an option for private schools? How to apply? What does it take to get one, etc. So I'll start by talking about the need-based scholarships. So these are family income dependent, and Exeter and Andover are and many of these other private schools are something that's known as need blind admissions, which means they don't admit based on your financial status. So they'll admit based off of the merit of your application, and then based on your financial status, they'll give you the aid that you require. So schools specifically like Exeter and Andover have big endowments and are generous with scholarships, and about half of the student body is on any sort of scholarship, which includes from 20% to 100% of the tuition.
Yeah, just to add on to that, scholarships are family income dependent, but a lot of schools do have generous scholarship options, especially Exeter and Andover. So no matter your family income, it's always a good idea to consider the need-based scholarship options, because of course tuition can be pretty expensive at these schools. And not only boarding schools, but also local day schools do have scholarship options. We'll discuss some of the specific ones a little bit later. I guess I can go on to merit-based scholarships. So merit-based scholarships are income agnostic. It does not matter what your family income is. It's really about the merit of the student. So one example, I think one of the most popular ones, is the Institute of Educational Advancement and the Caroline D. Bradley Scholarship. So this scholarship is for 7th graders, and it's important to first apply in 7th grade, and then this is basically a scholarship that provides 100% of tuition for any private school. This does not include boarding expenses if you're going to a boarding school. Basically, you apply in 7th grade, and after that, if you are accepted, then the Caroline D. Bradley people will guide you through the entire application process for private high schools, whether that be boarding school or local day school, and be able to help you not only just like get into private high schools, but also gain the confidence to speak in interviews, and basically just guide you throughout the entire process. So it's a really great option, and it's for more than just money. It's really a lot about mentorship as well. I think that so I'm one of like the lucky recipients of this scholarship, and I would 100% advocate for it. It's really a great opportunity to apply for. And I think the least thing that one of the smallest things about this is really the tuition. Just the mentorship they provide and the people that are available to talk with you, the community you become a part of. That's really one of the biggest parts of the scholarship, and I'd recommend it for absolutely everyone. So yeah, definitely take the option to apply. It's completely merit-based. So it's really just based on your application, your interview, your essays, all those sorts of things. They take approximately 25 students each year. Yeah.
So the last scholarship is the individual school-based scholarship. So some schools, in addition to having need-by admissions and need-based scholarships, also have merit-based scholarships, but this varies from school to school. So it's important to ask the admissions departments if they offer such scholarships. All right, so that's all we have for the presentation. So thanks to all the parents who submitted questions in advance and allowed us to prepare such a comprehensive presentation. We'll take all questions now, so you can post them in the chat or just ask through your mic.
So we can start. So in terms of timeline, when you're applying for high school, how the timeline flows, like in terms of when the writing exam versus essays, because there's a lot of work to do if you're freshly applying multiple schools. So you want to give some time, like you have at least second chance for a test and then plus application. So just rough idea would be great. Timeline.
Yeah, sure, I can take this.
Right.
Oh, okay, so it really depends. So our timeline was definitely more rushed because we didn't know we wanted to apply to these high schools till like October or November. So we actually did most of our applications in December, and it was definitely more rushed. But the timeline, at least like I'd recommend, I think you should recommend something similar, is so a lot of students, what they do is they stop by the school for an interview in the early months of fall. So that's like September, October, November. That time they go and visit some schools, do some interviews. You can always do interviews before your actual application. That's something good to take advantage of because it allows you to time out your interview and your application process. And then after that, you can start writing your applications like October, November, and work on those. It's also a really good idea to pace your SAT preparation or your ICE preparation. 3 months is probably a good time. Both of these things, the standardized tests and the applications and the interviews as well, are due in January. So it's probably good to start preparing around like November or October for your SAT or ICE. You don't have to do a lot of preparation each day. Just like a little bit of time each week will go a long way over a few months. So that's pretty important as well. And yeah, you can do interviews, like I said, pretty much anytime from all the way from September to January. You can also work on your applications anytime between then. It's really good to start pacing it out and work on a little bit each time. Another important thing to remember with essays is that a few of them will like go towards a lot of schools. And even if schools don't have the exact same essay prompts, which a lot of them will, they'll be very similar. So you can definitely rework some essays for other schools, and that will save you some time.
And then just adding on to what Riya said, there's also an aspect of recommendations for some schools. So you typically want to give your recommenders like 2 months to write a recommendation, and also probably take a couple weeks before the school year to just identify who your recommenders might be in your school. So just to have that well thought out, and then just ask them with 2 minutes left, 2 months till mid-January. So probably around November would be the most ideal. And I also got a question with how to deal with stress if you get into the school. So this is one of the, we also touched upon this earlier, but it really all depends on the mindset that you go into the school year with any private school, as these can be more cutthroat and competitive. So if you just really are focused on yourself and focus on what you got to do, and then don't worry about, this person, if you hear, this person got XYZ accomplishment, don't let that bog you down and like intimidate you, like, they're so good. Just focus on what you have to do and have confidence in yourself and believe in your skills, and it'll all work out.
Yeah, definitely. To add on to that as well, it's really important that you choose a school that is of your fit. And this is not a school that, that someone else wants you to go to, or you've heard is really good. It's really about choosing a school where you feel that you belong and connect with people, because this will ensure that you like the school environment, you like the people, and you feel less stress and pressure. So once again, it's really about finding someplace you really want to go and showing your interest, because one important thing to consider as well is interest goes a really long way when applying for schools. If you're able to show your interviewer and the admissions committee your interest, and this can be like, you can even send them emails after you have submitted your application. A lot of students do that, saying, like, reiterating their interest or saying like more things that they have done. You can feel free to do that, because interest really does go very far when talking with the admissions committee, just showing that you're passionate about the school and that you're really ready to bring a lot of things to their environment. So really, yeah, demonstrating interest in the school can be very important. So if you're interested in someplace, show that, and you have much higher chances of getting in as well. Anyone else can feel free to put a question in the chat, or you can send it to us privately or to everyone, or just unmute and speak.
So question is like, what's the biggest surprise you say when you join than what you actually imagine? So, it's like, is it food, or is like, leaving parents and going there at a younger age? So.
Mine is kind of odd. So when I came to Exeter, I thought everybody was going to be a robot. What I mean by this is like, I thought it would be like drive out, I'm going to take these courses. I'm going to take calculus as like ninth grade or like whatever. I thought every single person was going to be like absolutely and solely driven to do everything for, like basically just like do everything that they were supposed to and not do anything for fun, or basically like take all the hardest courses, do like thousands of extracurriculars. I don't know. I just had unrealistic expectations for every single person. I thought they were like robots. But I think coming to Exeter, it's really so different. Each person is just a person at the end of the day. They're not a robot. There's people you can connect with, like-minded people that I've met. I'm gonna say I've met some of my really, really great friends at Exeter. And I think it's one of the biggest things that everyone there is literally just a person. I guess I came in very intimidated, but I realized there was nothing at all to be intimidated about.
And then I guess for me was how what was pretty surprising to me was how drawn in I was into all the subjects I was taking. I remember I was the first class I actually took at Exeter was my Spanish class, and I came into it, I was like, oh, it's just Spanish, it's so boring. We're gonna learn about this grammar, we're gonna do this. But then the teacher started teaching, and I was like, oh, I got this, I can answer this. And the time flew by, and like I was like, oh, class is over now. That was like a 50-minute class. So I was really surprised by that, and I found that the same thing happening throughout all my classes. Like English, where I wasn't really biggest fan of English, so I've really been really get drawn into their teaching styles, and it's really helped me embrace the subject and learn a lot more, while as not feeling that burden of, oh, I'm in class, but mostly just feeling, oh, I'm here learning, having fun, etc.
So another question we just got was, what was the biggest difference between the public school and the private school experience? We touched upon this a little bit earlier, but I know some people came a little later, so I'm going to go back to it. Okay, right here. So at least for me, my most noticeable difference was the academic experience. And this was the course flexibility and choices, as well as the course rigor, because there's really so many more courses available at private high schools, whether that's a boarding high school or day school. Like Exeter has 300 plus, and a lot of other schools have similar amounts. And especially also like the rigor, because you have the option to take to skip courses over the summer, to take a placement test, to skip like even a year's worth of material, to basically do the courses that you're passionate about. It's the biggest thing. If there's something you're really excited or passionate about in school, you can really specialize in it in one of these private high schools, and basically just work more towards it and choose courses that you really like, and basically that will allow you to enjoy your high school experience even more.
And another big aspect of the difference between private versus public is also to touch on is also the class experience. So many public schools or private schools are going to have a peer group that's mixed grades. So your classes may have students from 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. So grade really isn't a barrier overall in the private school classes. And also class size is also significantly smaller. So Exeter, for example, has capped most classes at 12 students. So compared to the 20 to 25 that you might have in a private school class, that 12 really allows students to dive deeper into the material, bring up the points that they want to discuss, really drive the discussion in the way that they're interested in. And also discussion also brings me to my next point, which was the teaching method. So Exeter and many other private schools employ the Harkness method, which is a discussion style of learning, or in comparison to the lecture format of public school. So this discussion style format really doesn't have the teacher talking all that much, and the students really drive the conversation where they want to go to and really direct the pace of the class. So this really allows you to actually this helped me really develop a love of the learning, or love for learning the subjects that I was taking. And also the smaller class size also yields to greater teacher availability. So I've had the opportunity to go to have coffee with teachers, go to lunch and go to dinner with teachers, which really brings it. So the smaller classes also even helps develop relationships with the teachers that extend beyond the classroom.
Yeah, and Harkness also especially boosted my confidence, and I see that with a lot of my peers as well. It really builds your confidence in what you're able to say, and that really translates across all fields, whether that be personal, academic, whatsoever. Another question we have is, can you apply to the private school after you've already entered middle school? 7th grade, does it limit your chances to get in? So I think here you might be referring to Pingree and, let me find that quickly. Pingree and Newark Academy, the local private schools. And with Pingree especially, it does limit your chances because, especially coming from Short Hills, because they don't accept a lot of 9th graders from Short Hills, people of that demographic, because they have a lot of Short Hills students in their elementary and middle school programs. So it's much easier to get into Pingree specifically if you apply as an elementary or middle school student. Newark Academy, on the other hand, does take a lot more students in 9th grade. So that's something to consider. as well, but there's also a Newark Academy Middle School program, which takes in students from 6th grade, and it's a little bit easier to get into that as well. If you're referring to like general boarding schools, most boarding schools and like other private high schools do only take admissions from ninth grade. So when you've entered middle school, that's the perfect time to apply. And yeah, there's really does not really limit any of your chances to get in.
And then also, so for Pingree Newark Academy specifically, the best entry points are for admission chances are at least kindergarten, 6th grade, and 9th grade, as those are the years when all the spots are available. So in terms of boarding schools, so a lot of like boarding schools like Exeter, Andover have specific, so for 9th grade, they'll accept a lot of students, but they also accept students from 10th who are applying when they're already in 9th grade for to start 10th grade, and the same for 11th grade and 12th grade. So they have specific like counts of students built in who are going to only have 3 years at the school, or 2 years, or even 1 year. So I applied as a 10th grader, or I applied as a 9th grader going for admission in 10th grade, and reapplied as a 9th grader. So it really doesn't have an overall limit. Doesn't really overall limit your chances to get in, as there are fewer students applying from 9th grade to go to 10th grade, for example, and also fewer spots to compensate for that less demand. So I would say if you're interested, just go for it and apply. Applying besides Newark and Pingree, besides Pingree and Newark Academy, these boarding schools won't really limit your chances regardless of grade.
So one more question. I know Tanish, probably you're closer, but I'm still far away from applying college. Is one of the things people look for is counseling through the college admission process. And do you have an insight, or still you think that, probably like next year or later year, where you'll get a, guidance from, like private schools don't really have a college counselor. Is it they engage right away, or is like they engage in the last few years or something like that?
So for Exeter specifically, I get a college counselor in the winter of 11th grade. So this winter I'll have a college counselor, and so each college counselor typically has around 8 to 12 students per batch. So they're going to focus on those 8 to 12 students, addressing all their needs and guiding them through the college process. So it's a much more personalized experience in comparison to a public school. And we're also getting a question: how did you go into researching schools? Any particular websites and useful, or any particular websites are useful? So I just really went to the school's website itself to really see what the students are like, what the student body is up to, what are they doing, really see the personalities, and just see if I really vibed with the area. I looked at the schools also offer great pictures of the campus. So I looked at the swimming pool, which I really like. Look at the building, look at the dorms, etc. So really going to the school's website itself really does help and play a big role in, or really helped me play a big role in researching schools and deciding ultimately which ones I wanted to apply to.
Yeah, kind of to add on to that, 2 sites, niche.com and boarding school review. There's also privateschoolreview.com. These 3 sites, I'll repeat, niche.com. You can find them online if you just look up like any private school. Boarding school review and private school review, these give you like ratings about the schools. Niche has like over, like for Exeter, these like over, I think like 20 or 30 students who've given very like in-depth reviews, probably like 1,000 words or more about the school. So a lot of other schools have similar amounts. So it's really good to like kind of go there and see other people's opinions on the school. Something you can also do is look at the school's magazines. Like most schools have like a general like newspaper, like Exeter has the Exonian. And in that newspaper, they basically talk about everything happening in the school. So that's a really good place to look. Most of them are available online. So you can basically see a lot about the inner workings of the school and what people really do. It's a really good way to kind of assess the school as well. We also have another question of why did you decide to go to Exeter? So we touched upon that a little bit earlier. I'll put up to that. So at least like my decision-making factor was the peer group. And what I mean by that is that I went to like Exeter, I visited Exeter and other private schools, and I noticed that I was able to connect with a lot of like-minded peers. And that was one of the biggest things coming there, people who were really interested in a lot of the subjects I was interested in, whether that was like physics or psychology or math, and really able to, connect with me there, talk about that, and, bring my passion for those things to new levels. I really appreciated the people I was able to meet there. I think that was one of the biggest things that made me decide to go to one of these schools. Another big thing for me as well was the independence. going to a boarding school, and along with just even private schools offer a great amount of independence in the course flexibility and choices, as well as like, you know, what basically like what courses you want to take. But especially going to a boarding school and going as a boarding student, there are really so many options for me, and, you know, like staying in the dorms, customizing my room, you know, taking care of all those sorts of things myself. I was really attracted to the independence offered, and that was one of the biggest reasons I wanted to go to a boarding school.
I'd say for me, one of my main decision factors was the amount of courses that Exeter offered. So particularly in my areas of interest like history and computer science, there was courses from the European history, was covering pretty much every single point in history. So I was really excited about that. And specifically for computer science, Exeter covers all the different avenues of computer science I was interested in exploring. So those really drew me in and appealed me.
Another question we got was, did you miss your friends from Milburn, and how did you deal with that separation? So yeah, I definitely did. Going to a private school, going to a boarding school. I guess one thing is FaceTime exists. I also did miss my parents, to be completely honest. But you know, FaceTime exists and it works very well. I also got an Alexa show. Oh, okay, it didn't go off. So I also got the Alexa show. So I was able to basically like call my parents or call my friends whenever I wanted. You know, we texted, we talked, we called, we FaceTimed. It wasn't really, you know, at first a lot of people do feel homesick going to a boarding school, but at first it's that way. But once a student really starts to get immersed in the culture of the school, you know, the activities, there's really so much to do. There's just not enough time to feel homesick. At some point, it just started to fade away, and I really was just really happy there because there was so much to do and so many exciting things. So I think it was definitely a challenge at first, but it didn't last very long.
Ria pretty much summed up everything I wanted to say. So I think whatever she said, I say as well.
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely have the link to the recording since some people did come a little later. Yeah, we can also share the slides as well in our email.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there are any more questions, feel free to type in the chat or just unmute and tell us.
Yep.
Oh, what are some interesting courses you took? Okay, so I guess I can start with this. This is a hard one. So I think one thing, I haven't taken this course yet, but one thing I'm really excited for is next year I had the opportunity to customize my schedule. So next year I'm able to take both physics and chemistry, and that's something I'm really excited for. I've always loved chemistry, but I didn't really have an option to take it in the local school. And another thing was in middle school as well, we really focused on like an intersection between subjects, not really like one particular subject. But at least Exeter offers a lot of courses that are like geared towards particular things. So I'm able to take like a very geared chemistry course, and I'm really excited for that and all I'm going to learn there. I've also been able to take some more rigorous math courses, which have been really fun for me as well. What about you, Tanish?
I would say the most interesting course I've taken was one of the machine learning course I took this spring, which I really was able to learn a lot about machine learning. And our final project was also really cool and really allowed me to explore stuff I really hadn't before. And I'd say also Exeter's math curriculum is also extremely eye-opening for me, where the way that they introduce the problems to students and how you're able to derive all the formulas that you use, you end up deriving in some way or another through the problem. So really being able to take the knowledge from the problems and actually come up with the formulas and all the necessary materials needing to solve other problems was really really rewarding for me. And there's another question. So how diverse are private schools? So private schools are extremely diverse. You're gonna find people from all over the planet. So I'd say some of my closest friends are from Brazil, Europe, China, India, California. I basically have no friends that I live close by to. So people come from all over, from all different walks of life, all different financial statuses, etc. So the Exeter and other private schools do a really great job of bringing in a diverse community so people can have all sorts of experiences from all sorts of people.
Yeah, and you won't notice that as much with local day schools because of course they're like local and geared towards a specific area, especially if you go towards like boarding schools or even like whether those be really far away or like it's something like Petty or Lawrenceville, which are only like around an hour away or even 30 minutes. You'll notice that once again, most boarding schools and like local private schools do bring in like a huge variety of students, like Tanish mentioned, all around the world. And it's really impressive, all the people you're able to meet and all the cultures that come together on one campus. It's really a great opportunity to meet all these people and have a lot of fun and learn so much from all different cultures and all different groups. It really makes classes more interesting, especially with our Harkness style, when so many people have so many different things to offer from their backgrounds. Any last questions?
So we have a question, is it block scheduling or regular? So Exeter in particular does a block schedule where you have, most classes will meet 4 times a week and for 50 minutes each. And then if additional classes will meet for 5 days a week for 50 minutes each. So it's a block schedule.
Yes, well, some person asked other school I applied. So I guess I applied to like more boarding schools. So I guess some boarding schools I'll just name. Those are Exeter, Andover. Local schools, more local boarding schools are Petty, Lawrenceville. There's also, I can do the slide on it right here. There's also Choate, Hotchkiss, and Groton. And all these schools are slightly different, and really depends on fit and choosing which one you want to apply to. So Petty, Lawrenceville, those are of course closer by, and parents can come and visit more often or on the weekends. Exeter, Andover are much further away, and they're definitely larger schools as well. Exeter is more STEM focused, while Andover is more liberal arts focused. While Choate is a very flexible, like if a student has like international, needs to go like somewhere internationally or is traveling a lot, then Choate is a good place to go because they offer a lot of flexibility in terms of like structure. But of course, sometimes a more structured environment like Exeter, Andover is better because a flexible environment offers places for students to waste time or not have as much of a fulfilling experience. Hotchkiss and Groton are much smaller schools, and they create very warm and like fulfilling and happy environments. So that's definitely a great place to go as well. Yeah, all these schools really depend on the environment, and to learn more about that, you can go to a school's website, read their newspapers, talk to admissions officials, lots of things you can do.
So I got a question that says, can you get into better colleges by how much %? So this is a little in the gray area. So Exeter, so all of these, so in terms of the college admissions process, these schools are significantly more competitive. So in a way, it may hinder your college admissions chances, as each colleges want to take students from different areas, from different schools. So they want to admit like half the student body from Exeter, for example. So in terms of college admissions, it can be a little bit more competitive, but that's just my overall insight into the process.
Another thing to know with college admissions is that they don't really depend as much on school. So going to these schools, it's really not the biggest factor, at least in my opinion. I think it's more about the student. And once again, college admissions processes are somewhat similar to high school admission processes. It's really about how passionate you are about the things that you're doing and the opportunities you've taken, and like if the admissions officials can see if you can bring that onto campus and really share that with other students. So once again, I don't think it's as much about the school, although I suppose like these schools will be more competitive, but at the same time, like local schools are also quite competitive in our areas. So I think it's really more about the student and what they're interested in. Yeah, that's just my opinion on the matter. Okay, so if that's all, thank you so much. So if you have more specific questions or you would like more detailed guidance through the admissions process, we are also happy to do a one-on-one session for you. Shoot us a quick email at, I'll put the email in the chat, hercomputing@gmail.com. We're so happy you're able to show up. So thank you all so much for coming, and have a great rest of your day. We'll share the slides in the recording as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much again, everybody, for coming. We really enjoyed the session here. We hope you learned a lot from it as well.
Yep, feel free to shoot us an email if you have any more questions or you'd like a one-on-one session.